My mom left me her house after she died, but my brother showed up with a moving truck claiming it was his. What started as a family feud turned into a courtroom war, and the truth buried in her closet changed everything. I always knew my family had cracks in it, but I never expected to watch it shatter right in front of me, especially not over something like a will. It started 6 months ago when my mom passed away. She had battled cancer for almost 3 years, and even though we all knew the end was coming, it still hit like a freight train when it happened. She was the glue that held everything together, even when things were tense. And trust me, they were always tense. My older brother Tyler and I hadn't been close for years. He was the golden child growing up, varsity football, straight teeth, the kind of guy who could charm the pants off anyone, including our mom. Me? I was the quiet one. More into books and computers than sports and parties. That meant when we were kids, he got the attention, and I got the leftovers. Still, I didn't expect what happened next. 2 weeks after the funeral, I got a call from my mom's lawyer. She'd left a will, and I was the sole beneficiary of her house. Her paid-off house. Now, I didn't expect that. I figured she'd split it between us. Maybe even leave it all to Tyler, given their bond. But no, it was in black and white. She left me the house, the contents, the land, everything. The thing is, Mom knew I was struggling. After getting laid off during COVID and drowning in medical debt from an injury that insurance wouldn't fully cover, I'd been couch surfing for months. I was working part-time at a warehouse, trying to get back on my feet. That house? It was a lifeline. But when I told Tyler, oh man. He flipped. I'll never forget the look on his face. You've got to be kidding me, he said, staring at me like I just told him I killed our mom. There's no way Mom would leave you the house. I didn't ask for it, Tyler. She left a will. It's notarized and everything. The lawyer has the original. He scoffed. You probably manipulated her. Took advantage while she was sick. Are you serious? She was on morphine for the last month, man. You probably talked her into it. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. That was the beginning of what would become a nightmare. The very next day, Tyler showed up at the house. With a moving truck. I wasn't even joking. I was sitting on the porch with a coffee, just trying to breathe for once, when I heard the rumble of the engine. He and his wife, Casey, got out like they were home from vacation. Casey smiled like we were about to have a family reunion. Hey, she said sweetly. We're just gonna move into the guest room until we sort all this out, okay? I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, because I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Tyler barged past me like he owned the place. Until the courts figure this out, I've got just as much right to be here as you do. No, you don't, I said, standing up. Mom left me the house. Not you. Yeah, well, we'll see about that. And just like that, Tyler and Casey moved in. I tried calling the lawyer. He said I could call the police if I wanted, but that it might take months to get an official eviction, especially since Tyler was technically family, and claiming to have verbal permission from Mom. It was all complicated, messy, and expensive. So for 3 months, I lived in a passive-aggressive war zone. Tyler and Casey treated me like a squatter in my own house. They'd blast the TV late at night. Accidentally, eat my groceries. Tyler even took the keys to my car once without asking. When I confronted him, he said, "What's yours is mine, little bro." And the worst part? Casey got pregnant. Now, every time I tried to stand up for myself, they played the "we're starting a family" card. Don't you want your niece or nephew to have a safe place to grow up? Casey would say, hand on her belly like she was in a soap opera. I was losing my mind. That's when I started digging. Because something didn't add up. Mom was a little out of it near the end, but she had moments of clarity. Enough to write a will? Definitely. But there was something else, something Tyler said during one of our fights that stuck in my brain. He said, "You probably convinced her after Dad died." Only. Mom and Dad had split over a decade ago. Dad died last year, in Florida. They hadn't spoken in years. Why would that matter? So I went through Mom's desk, looking for anything, notes, letters, documents. And what I found changed everything. She had a second will. Handwritten. Dated after the one filed by the lawyer. And this one? It split the house between me and Tyler. Suddenly, everything made sense. I stared at the second will for a long time, my hands trembling. It was in Mom's handwriting, no doubt about that. Dated just 6 weeks before she passed. The ink had smudges, probably from her shaking hands, but it was legible enough to see she wanted the house split 50-50 between me and Tyler. I didn't know what to feel. On one hand, it proved Tyler wasn't totally delusional. On the other, why hadn't she told me about this version? Why hadn't she had it updated officially? The lawyer said the will he had was the last one she signed and notarized. Which meant, legally it was the valid one. But now I was stuck with a moral dilemma. I could keep this second will hidden and fight to keep the house entirely. Or I could bring it forward and risk losing everything. I chose option 3. I made a copy and took it to the lawyer. He read it in silence, then looked up at me. "Where did you find this?" "In Mom's desk drawer. Hidden under a folder of old birthday cards." He nodded slowly. "It's not legally binding. There's no witness. No notary stamp. But if Tyler finds out about it, he might try to contest the official will. Which would delay everything. Maybe even drag it into court. Great, I muttered. So what should I do? That depends, he said carefully. Do you want to keep the house? Or keep the peace? I walked out of his office without answering. That night, I hid the handwritten will in my room. I couldn't decide whether to burn it or frame it. Then, 2 days later, the final straw hit. I came home from a long shift, tired, sweaty, just needing a shower, and found all my stuff shoved into trash bags in the garage. I thought maybe we'd been robbed until I saw Tyler on the couch, feet up, beer in hand, watching football. What the hell is this? I asked. He didn't even look up. We needed the space. You're not the only one living here, you know. I was done. I stormed into the garage, grabbed my laptop, and went straight to a friend's house. His name's Sam. We went to high school together, and he let me crash on his couch while I figured things out. He's the kind of guy who keeps spare blankets in the closet and frozen pizzas in the freezer just for emergencies like this. That night I told him everything. The will. The second will. Tyler. The fights. The manipulation. He just sat there, shaking his head like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You know what you gotta do, right? Sam said. No. But I bet you're gonna tell me. Lawyer up. Fight for the house. Get those two out before that baby's born and they try to claim squatters' rights or something worse. He wasn't wrong. So I did it. I called the lawyer the next morning and told him I was ready to file for formal eviction. It wasn't cheap. The fees hit me hard, especially with my part-time job barely keeping gas in my tank. But I pulled some strings, borrowed some money from Sam and another old friend, and got the paperwork started. And Tyler? Oh, he was livid. You're trying to make a pregnant woman homeless? He screamed over the phone. No, I said calmly. I'm trying to get my house back from the guy who stole it. We're family. You should have thought about that before you threw my stuff in the garage. That was the last time we spoke civilly. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, I stayed with Sam and picked up extra shifts. I sold off a few things, dipped into my emergency fund, and spent every night thinking about Mom, wondering what she'd say if she saw what we'd become. Then something unexpected happened. I got a message on Facebook from someone I didn't know. It said, "Hi, I'm Amanda. I knew your mom. There's something you should know about Tyler." I hesitated before replying. Was this a scam? A troll? I checked her profile, seemed legit. Photos, family, mutual friends from town. Nothing shady. So I answered. Amanda said she was part of a support group Mom had attended during her last year, kind of a grief and coping circle for women with estranged families. And apparently, in one of those meetings, Mom had talked about Tyler. A lot. She was afraid of him. Amanda wrote. She said he used to intimidate her. Push her around. Not physically, but emotionally. Especially when he found out she wasn't putting him in the will. She said he threatened to take what was his after she died. My blood ran cold. I asked Amanda if she'd be willing to say that in court. She said yes. I forwarded the messages to my lawyer, who immediately added Amanda to the witness list. He also told me something I hadn't considered. If we could prove Tyler had coerced Mom or manipulated her, he could be disqualified from inheriting anything. Even under a new will. That gave me a twisted sense of hope. Not just about keeping the house, but about finally proving Tyler wasn't the golden boy everyone thought he was. But then, things escalated again. I was walking to my car after a shift one night when I noticed my tires were slashed. Not one. All four. The repair shop said it was definitely intentional. Deep, clean cuts. Not something you get from driving over a nail. And I knew who it was. But I couldn't prove it. Not yet. By the time the court date rolled around, I wasn't sleeping more than 3 or 4 hours a night. Every creak outside Sam's apartment made me flinch. I kept checking my tires, locking the doors, keeping my phone charged just in case something else happened. Even though I couldn't prove Tyler slashed my tires, I felt it in my gut. That kind of spite was exactly his style. Petty, vindictive, just enough to make a point without leaving fingerprints. But court was coming, and I was ready. Well, as ready as I could be. Tyler and Casey showed up looking like they just walked out of a magazine. Her belly was noticeably bigger now, and she made sure everyone saw it, cradling it like a prop while looking around for sympathetic eyes. Tyler wore a button-down shirt I was pretty sure Mom had bought him years ago. He didn't look at me. Good. We went before the judge in a small courtroom with creaky benches and humming fluorescent lights. The kind of place that smells like old books and cheap coffee. My lawyer laid it all out, Mom's notarized will, her intention to leave me the house, the timeline, the eviction request. He didn't even bring up the handwritten will unless it came up, which it didn't, but he did submit Amanda's statement about Mom feeling threatened by Tyler. That definitely got the judge's attention. Tyler's lawyer tried to paint me as unstable. He brought up my job loss, my debt, the fact that I'd been homeless for a time after Mom died. He even hinted that I had been dependent on Mom's generosity while Tyler and Casey were starting a family and building a future. I almost laughed out loud. But then, Casey took the stand. And that's where things took a turn. She started off sweet, all soft-spoken and wide-eyed. "We just want what's fair," she said, dabbing fake tears with a tissue. "We're not trying to steal anything. But I know his mom told us multiple times that the house would be his someday. She said she wanted him to raise his kids there. My lawyer stood up. Do you have any proof of that conversation? A recording? A text? No, she said, sniffling. But it's what she said. Then Amanda testified. And man, did she drop a bomb. She said, and I quote, Mary told me she was afraid Tyler would manipulate the situation after she passed. She specifically said, I don't trust him not to fight my will. He thinks he deserves everything just because he's my oldest. That hit hard. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. But the real twist came after we left the courtroom. We were still waiting on the judge's decision, and Tyler, red-faced and fuming, shoved past me outside the courthouse. This isn't over, he muttered, not even looking me in the eye. I didn't respond. But what was over was my patience. I went back to Mom's house, my house, with the locksmith. Changed every lock. I figured the court would rule in my favor, but I wasn't taking any chances. That's when I made the biggest discovery of all. I was cleaning out the master bedroom closet, going through boxes of old clothes and books, when I found a small wooden lockbox tucked behind a shoebox. It was heavy, with a rusted latch, and no key in sight. Took me an hour and a flathead screwdriver to get it open. Inside? Letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to my mom. But they weren't from me or Tyler. They were from Dad. And they were dated from after the divorce. After the court papers. After he was supposedly out of our lives. Turns out, they'd been writing to each other for years. In secret. I sat down on the floor and started reading. One by one. Slowly. And what I found changed everything. I must have sat on the bedroom floor for hours, surrounded by crumpled tissue and yellowing envelopes, reading through every single letter in that old wooden box. Dad's handwriting was as familiar as ever, sharp, slanted, a little too aggressive for comfort. And yet the words? They were soft. Apologetic. Desperate. He told Mom he missed her. That he regretted everything. That the years had humbled him. Some letters were full of poetry and bad jokes. Others hinted at things I hadn't known growing up. Things like, the divorce wasn't just about fighting. There was a third party involved, someone Tyler looked up to. And Mom hadn't told the full truth about why she left. I didn't understand it at first. But the deeper I went into the pile, the more I realized Dad and Mom had rekindled some kind of friendship, even after everything. Not romantic necessarily, but personal. Deep. Quiet. And one letter from 3 years ago stood out more than any of them. In it Dad said, Mary, you were right about Tyler. He's learned all my worst traits and none of your grace. If I could go back and undo what I passed down to him, I would. You told me he threatened you. I believe you now. Please protect yourself. And protect him. He's not ready for real life, no matter how hard he pretends. That letter hit me like a truck. Not just because it confirmed my gut feeling about Tyler, but because it showed me that Mom had been scared. She hadn't just changed the will because she loved me more, she'd done it because she didn't trust him. I stopped feeling guilty right then and there. She chose me. Not out of pity. Not out of desperation. Out of trust. And I was going to honor that. I brought the letters to my lawyer the next morning. He took one look at them and said, We may not need them legally, but if this goes to trial, they paint a clear emotional picture of why your mom did what she did. I nodded. Then let's use them. We didn't even get the chance. Because Tyler made his next move first. A week before the final court ruling, I came home from work to find a police officer waiting at the door. My stomach dropped. You Jacob? He asked. Yeah. You're being served. Your brother is suing for wrongful inheritance, emotional distress, and something about elder coercion. You'll need to respond within 14 days. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. A full, ridiculous, tired, what even is my life kind of laugh. He was suing me? For taking care of Mom? For following her wishes? Fine. Let him. I handed everything to my lawyer, every letter, every statement, every text message Tyler had sent me that proved he was trying to force me out of the house. The judge scheduled another hearing, but this time it wasn't just about eviction. It was about intent. That's when Casey cracked. 3 days before the hearing, she called me. I didn't recognize the number, but I picked up anyway. Her voice was quiet. Shaky. Jacob, it's me. Casey. Why are you calling me? I can't do this anymore. Tyler's losing it. He thinks this whole thing is a game, like some reality show, and he doesn't care who gets hurt. Okay? I have something. Something you can use. He told me not to show anyone, but I'm pregnant, and I can't raise a kid with someone like him. There was a pause. Come to the park near Oak Ridge. I'll bring it. I don't want him to know. Now, I should have known better than to meet up in some shady location, but something in her voice told me she was telling the truth. So I went. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench with a folder in her lap. She looked exhausted. Pale. Like this whole drama had drained the life right out of her. Without saying a word, she handed me the folder. Inside were emails. From Tyler. To his own lawyer. And in them, he literally admitted to planning to fight the will, before Mom even passed away. One line in particular chilled me. Once she's gone, I'm taking the house. I don't care what that little worm thinks he's getting. I'll find a way to flip the script. He knew. He was never going to accept the will. He was always planning to fight it. I thanked Casey quietly. Told her I'd keep her out of it if I could. She nodded, eyes full of tears, and whispered, "Just make sure he doesn't win." I showed the emails to my lawyer that same night. He nearly dropped his coffee. "Where did you get these?" "Casey," I said. "She's finally seeing through him." He didn't even hesitate. "We're using them." With the emails, Amanda's statement, and my mom's official will, we had a solid case. But more than that, we had proof of intent. Tyler didn't just think he deserved the house. He was plotting to take it no matter what. And now, thanks to his own girlfriend, we had it in writing. The day of the final hearing felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, wind howling behind me, waiting for someone to push. Court was packed. Tyler sat next to his lawyer, smug as ever, arms crossed like he'd already won. Casey didn't show. She'd moved back in with her mom 2 days before. Guess she finally realized what she was really dealing with. My lawyer went first. He laid everything out like it was a puzzle, clear, logical, damning. He presented Mom's notarized will, explained how it was the only legal version, and backed it up with Amanda's testimony. Then he brought out the emails. The judge read them slowly, eyebrows rising with each page. By the time she was done, the courtroom was silent. Then Tyler's lawyer stood up and tried to spin it. Said the emails were out of context. That Tyler was just venting about the stress of losing a parent. Said this was a misunderstanding between siblings, not a criminal act. And then Tyler made the mistake of opening his mouth. He stood up, pointed at me, and said loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Mom promised me that house. She told me when I was 15 that it would be mine someday. I took care of her when no one else did." The judge raised a hand. "Mr. Davis, please sit down." But he didn't. He kept going. She was confused at the end. All drugged up. That will isn't what she really wanted. It's what he convinced her to do. Now everyone was watching. The judge stared at him for a long moment. Then she said very calmly, "So, you're claiming the official notarized will is invalid?" "I'm saying my mom got manipulated." "And yet," the judge said, flipping through her notes, "you discussed plans to overturn it before she passed, yes?" Tyler froze. The judge turned to the room. "Here's the truth as I see it. A mother made a legal, notarized decision to leave her house to one of her sons. That decision, as painful as it may be for others, is valid. The secondary accusations of coercion are unsupported. And the plaintiff's own written words demonstrate intent to disregard her wishes before she even died." She looked directly at Tyler. "Mr. Davis, not only are you being evicted, but you are hereby disqualified from any claim to this property due to evidence of malicious intent. This court sides with the defendant. The house belongs solely to Jacob Davis." I didn't breathe for a full 30 seconds. It was over. Just like that. After all the yelling, threats, sleepless nights, sabotage, and drama, it was done. I walked out of that courtroom with shaky hands and watery eyes. I'd won. But I didn't feel like I'd won. Not really. When I got home that night, I walked through every room in that house. Slowly. Quietly. Like I was walking through a memory. The living room where Mom used to sit with her knitting. The kitchen where we made pancakes every Sunday when I was a kid. The hallway closet that always smelled like peppermint and dust. The back porch where she used to drink her tea and listen to the wind chimes. It all still smelled like her. Felt like her. But it also felt hollow. I finally had the house, but the price had been heavy. Family broken. Tyler gone. Casey, alone and pregnant. Me, standing in the middle of it all, wondering what came next. Then, as I was walking past Mom's old bedroom again, I noticed something. One of her journals was peeking out from under the bed. I picked it up, opened to a random page, and there it was. Her handwriting. Neat, tidy, and full of heart. "I know this house will outlive me. I just hope whoever gets it understands it's not just walls and wood. It's a place that held love, pain, healing. And it deserves someone who remembers all of that, not just someone who wants to cash it in." I closed the journal and sat down on the bed. She had chosen me. Because I would remember. Because I did remember. 2 weeks after the court ruling, things finally started to settle. Tyler disappeared. No calls. No texts. Not even a rage-fueled voicemail, which, honestly, I expected. He didn't even come back for his stuff. I packed up what he left behind and hired a moving service to drop it all off at his last known address. I didn't want anything of his in the house. Not anymore. It took a few weeks before the tension started to leave my shoulders. I got a better job, full-time, with benefits. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. I started fixing up the house. Repainted the living room. Replaced the leaky faucet in the kitchen. Bought a second-hand recliner and plopped it down where Mom's favorite chair used to be. Little by little, it started to feel like mine. Then, just when I thought things were finally turning around, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. No handwriting I recognized. Just my name, printed neatly in black ink. I opened it slowly, half expecting it to be from Tyler. But it wasn't. It was from Casey. "Jacob. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this. First, thank you. Not just for doing the right thing in court, but for not dragging me down with Tyler. I never really saw him for who he was until all of this happened. I've moved in with my mom. The baby's due in 2 months. And I've decided I'm going to raise her on my own. I don't want her growing up thinking it's okay to manipulate and lie to get what you want. There's something else, too. Something I didn't say in court because I didn't think it would matter. But now, I think maybe it does. Your mom told me, right before she passed, that she changed her will because she trusted you to do the right thing. She knew Tyler would fight it. Knew he'd try to twist it. But she said, and I quote, "Jacob has a good heart. He'll do what's right, even if it's hard." I don't know if that means anything to you. But it meant a lot to her. Anyway, thank you again. For everything. And if you ever want to meet your niece someday, you know where to find us. Casey. I had to sit down after reading that. My throat felt tight. My chest too full. Mom knew. She saw the storm coming long before I did. And she trusted me to hold the line. To protect the home. To be the one who remembered what it meant. And Casey, she wasn't the villain I thought she was. Not anymore. She got swept up in Tyler's ego the same way everyone else did. But in the end, she found her own way out. That took guts. Maybe more than I ever gave her credit for. I folded the letter and tucked it into Mom's journal. Right between the pages where she talked about what made a house a home. A month later, I finally opened the guest room door. The one Tyler and Casey had been staying in during those awful weeks after Mom died. I'd avoided it for a long time. Couldn't even look at the door without hearing their voices, condescending, smug, entitled. But it was time to move on. The room was a mess. Dusty, cluttered, full of leftover junk they hadn't bothered to take. Clothes, trash, a half-built crib still in the corner. But behind the crib, wedged between the wall and the nightstand, was something I hadn't expected. Another letter. This one, from Mom. It wasn't sealed. Just folded carefully. The date on the top was the day before she passed. Jacob. If you're reading this, then you already know what happened with the will. I know it's not fair. I know it's going to cause problems. But I need you to understand, I made that choice with a clear head and a full heart. I saw how kind you were, even when Tyler was cruel. I saw how you stayed by my side, even when it hurt. I saw the man you've become. This house needs someone who remembers where we came from. Who doesn't see it as an asset, but as a home. You've always been that person. Take care of it. And take care of yourself. Love always. Mom. I read it twice. Then a third time. And then I cried for the first time in months. It's been almost a year since all of that. The house is fully mine now, fixed, cleaned, lived in. I turned the guest room into a home office. Kept Mom's garden alive out back. Even hosted Thanksgiving last year with a few friends who've become like family. Tyler still hasn't reached out. But you know who did? Casey. She sent me a photo of her daughter a few weeks ago. Named her Lily. Big blue eyes, dark hair, and the chubbiest cheeks you've ever seen. She asked if I wanted to meet her someday. And maybe. I will. Not because I feel guilty. Not because I owe Tyler anything. But because Mom would have wanted it. And honestly? So do I. Because in the end, this wasn't just about a house. It was about honor. About memory. About being the kind of man my mom believed I could be. And finally, after everything, I think I am.